This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Windy, dry conditions and rising temperatures are fueling wildfire concerns. So far, there have been more than 60 fires across Manitoba this year. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, it's pushed the province to expand its travel and fire restrictions because of the increased risks.
Provincial water bombers have been busy fighting wildfires from the air. This fire near the Paw and Opaskwayak Cree Nation has been burning since Saturday and is currently the largest in the province. Another on Wednesday in Lake Manitoba First Nation is now under control.
There was a fire last night. It was pretty big. It started to threaten about 16 homes.
At its command center in Winnipeg, the Manitoba Wildfire Service monitors the situation using satellite imagery and maps.
There may be an evacuation going on at the South Rocky Lake.
Acting Director Glenn Miller says the biggest areas of concern right now are in the Interlake and eastern Manitoba, where it's driest. With 62 fires so far, wildfire crews and firefighters have been busy. And Miller says it could be a sign of things to come this summer, with forecasts calling for a potentially severe fire season.
It would be more for the whole province that we would have above average fire activity.
Strong winds have increased the risk of fires spreading and are only making it more challenging for crews fighting them. That's why officials are urging people to respect burn restrictions and travel bans. Restrictions have been expanded in these areas. It's because of a lack of precipitation and rising temperatures. There's a ban on all motorized backcountry travel and fires between 8 in the morning and 8 at night in southeast Manitoba and parts of the Interlake. These restrictions also cover several provincial parks, including Whiteshell.
We apologize for that technical difficulty. Well, with more fires continually sparking, crews are scrambling to catch up. But the early and fierce start to the season has many worried about what's to come. The CBC's Sanuda Ranawake has more on the preparations.
It's the remnants of a quick-moving wildfire, the scorched path, a scar left behind. But here in Pimicikamak, some believe the worst is yet to come. This small fire last week is just the beginning.
It ran away on them so fast because it's so windy, the wind was blowing in all directions.
The fire reached Miranda Blacksmith and her brother Derek Robinson's backyard and kept spreading. Their home was spared, but the worry remains.
A fire's no joke, especially with a lot of kids around. And we only have 2 fire trucks in town.
Fire Chief Ray McKay says weather changes are having a big impact.
Every year I've been a fire chief, or I don't know. There are lots of changes in this weather. Like right now, it's dry, and last year was kind of wet and it was raining.
By this time of year, Manitoba usually averages around 35 wildfires. And last year, it was just 21. But the province says as of Wednesday, there's already been 59 fires, with 13 currently active. Pimicikamak's Band Council is gearing up, purchasing brand new equipment and enlisting new firefighters.
So we recently just purchased about approximately $300,000 worth of equipment as a result of the wildfire in 2023.
But they want the federal government to step up and help them prepare further.
We want to get another fire hall in our community, so we're working on that proposal, and also another fire truck. You know, we got a population of approximately 8,000 people, and for one fire department to service 8,000 people is a lot.
While some say they're scared for what's to come, they're doing what they can to prepare.
We already had a hose ready for to protect our house if it came this way.
And hoping to see a lot more rain. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Pimicikamak Cree Nation.
Let's bring in weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, you've been talking about this for a number of days, those really dry conditions and those increasing winds. And it's really something people, especially up north, are contending with.
Yeah, and I'm going to start with that forest fire, that wildfire that Josh was mentioning in his item. This one just outside of the Pas as of this afternoon at 6,600 hectares. Still listed as out of control. What you're looking at here is satellite imagery of this fire transposed onto a computerized model to give us a sense of the perimeter of this fire. The brighter the colors, those oranges, those reds, showing the expansion of that fire as we've gotten through the last couple of days. That one human caused. The other one that I have been keeping my eye on is this one just outside of Lynn Lake, only 40 hectares in size, but certainly has been causing some smoke issues through parts of northern Manitoba. That fire near the Pas has been prompting this air quality advisory as well as we've gotten throughout the day today. Looking at the potential for some smoke or some haze, particularly the further east you go, the more hazy conditions, but certainly Flin Flon, the Pas, the potential for some local smoke even. All of this not helped by the winds that we've seen. Peak wind gusts throughout the day today at 63 in Winnipeg so far, 67 in Winnipeg, even closer and above 70 in parts of western Manitoba. So certainly a very windy day. Another day where we have been really urging folks to be fire smart because with wind gusts and wind conditions like these, it doesn't take much for a small fire to turn into something way, way bigger and get out of control. I'll be back in a bit to talk about the winds and maybe when we could see some rain on the horizon in just a bit.
All right, many looking for that.
Yes.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, there's a new leader of the world's Roman Catholics, and it's an unexpected choice. For the first time in history, the Pope is American. Megan Williams is in the Vatican with more.
It was an electrifying moment to hear the announcement that an American, Robert Prevost, has become the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. Many people thought that that would never happen. There was always this idea that to balance the superpower United States, that the Vatican would never have an American Pope. And of course, that went out the window, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, is also Peruvian. He spent the past 2 decades in Peru. He is very well known in Latin America, and likely that's where a lot of the votes came from. The other reason is the change in the United States under President Donald Trump. Leo XIV and Trump could not be further apart politically. Leo is very much in line with Pope Francis's values and emphasis in the Catholic Church, reaching out to the poor, to migrants, going out into the world and making an open, welcoming church. It is very clear by the name that he chose. The previous Leo XIII, was a pope that also was very focused on social justice, that issued into the church social teaching, and was very much on the side of exploited workers. Megan Williams, CBC News, the Vatican.
Now, people here in Winnipeg with ties to the Catholic Church are celebrating the new pontiff. Many expect him to follow in the footsteps of his predecessor. The CBC's Matt Humphrey has more.
The Archbishop of Winnipeg, Murray Chatelain, wasn't expecting a new pope to be chosen this quickly and wasn't expecting Leo XIV's American roots.
It was surprising that they chose someone for the United States. Most of the world is mad at the United States right now.
But Chatelain won't be surprised if Leo's papacy is somewhat similar to Francis's.
His 8 years of being bishop in a poor Peruvian diocese, very missionary. He's a religious priest, an Augustinian. And so it just is encouraging that he's someone who has a sense of social justice.
Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand met with Pope Francis in 2022, part of a group pressing for an apology over the Church's role in Canada's residential school system. Chartrand hopes to speak with Leo about revitalizing the Church in Canada.
One of the things I did speak to him is that when you go into our churches today in North America, and especially in the Red River Métis communities, you look at our churches that are empty, and they used to be full.
Chartrand says the Church needs to build trust.
when I do meet with Pope Leo, I will raise the same concerns I have on that issue, because my elders have raised it with me. That way, I need to do something. I need to make sure that churches do not shut down.
Meanwhile, Christopher Adams, rector of St. Paul's College at the University of Manitoba, says Winnipeg has deep Catholic roots.
We have 3 bishops that report to Rome directly, and the only other city that has that many bishops that do that is Jerusalem. And that's an artifact of the growth of our city in the early 1900s.
Adams anticipates Leo will be progressive.
Talking about Gaza and talking about Ukraine and these different places. And like our last Pope came to Canada to make a public apology to the First Nations, and it still reverberates. We look to the new Pope to continue on that road of dialogue.
All will be looking to see in what direction Leo takes the church. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeggers will soon have fewer non-stop U.S. flight options as WestJet suspends or reduces flights to 4 U.S. cities. It comes amid reduced Canadian demand for travel south of the border and the depletion of a provincial flight subsidy fund. The Winnipeg Airports Authority says WestJet flights between Winnipeg and Los Angeles will be suspended starting June 1st, along with those to Orlando. Direct flights to Las Vegas will be paused for July and August, and the nonstop flight to Atlanta will be reduced to twice a week. It's being described as a transformative deal that will create jobs and energy-efficient homes in Broken Head, Ojibwe Nation. Efficiency Manitoba and Raven Outcomes have partnered to install heat pumps in 100 homes over 2 years. Up to $18.9 million is being invested for installation, upgrades, and training. Broken Head Chief Gordon Blue Sky says the project addresses a lot of needs in the community.
Most of our homes don't have cooling, air conditioning, and this project itself is talking about bringing forward 50% of our homes will have cool air now after we're done with this project.
Now work will begin on the first home in June. 12 people in the community will be trained to install and maintain the heat pumps.
I'm Ian Fraze at the Manitoba Legislature, where news of another school division laying off educational assistants has left people scrambling. Swan Valley School Division is cutting EAs to the equivalent of 28 full-time positions starting in the fall, all because federal funding through Jordan's principal has dried up. This is the same issue Hanover School Division ran into last year. Indigenous Services Canada is cracking down on funding requests from non-First Nations schools. Here's the explanation Swan Valley's superintendent was told.
Jordan's principal funding is for people that live on First Nations communities. So, and that the provincial government should fund provincial schools.
But he's frustrated because the division was already using this money for Indigenous students. He says the EA support is needed whether the students live on or off reserve.
You know, I don't feel like we were ever abusing Jordan's principal's dollars in any way, shape, or form, and that our kids were directly benefiting.
Tory education critic Wayne Owasco is calling on the province to pay for these EAs and then ask Ottawa to reimburse them. Owasco says spending this money is worth it, even if no other government helps with the bill. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
People across Canada are remembering Victory in Europe Day. Dozens of veterans, military officials, and politicians gathered at the Manitoba Legislature today. It was on this day 80 years ago that the Nazis surrendered to Allied forces, ending the Second World War in Europe. The province honored 3 veterans, all now at least 100 years old.
This is the future home of the new Northwest Library. The property committee approved a lease for space here in Garden City Shopping Centre, but some library supporters worry the plan could spell doom for another beloved branch. In 2022, the city considered closing the West Kildonan Library. At the time, it proposed moving the West K Library into the mall, but abandoned that plan after community pushback.
Morning.
Harriet Zaidman of the Friends of West Kildonan Library spoke to the property committee today. She's worried no plans have been announced to renovate the library.
The building has been declared a heritage building. It's a very viable building, and it's used by the community quite a lot, and it needs a new roof. So when will it be done?
A report in May last year outlined options for renovations ranging from more than $6 million to more than $10 million. The roof needed replacing within 18 months, but council did not set aside funding for the work. Property Committee Chair Evan Duncan says there are no plans for major repairs at West K.
That doesn't mean that in future years that can't change and that we can't look at making changes to improve the services, whether it be program or just the infrastructure there.
But Duncan says there are no plans to close any libraries. The lease on the new Northwest Library still needs approval from council. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Transcona Councillor Russ Wyatt has asked a judge to overturn a City Council reprimand against him. Winnipeg City Council voted in January to admonish Wyatt because he wouldn't apologize to former Chief Administrator Michael Jack. Wyatt called for Jack to be fired in 2023.
I was saying exactly what members of this council, including members of EPC, were saying privately at the time, but didn't have the courage to say publicly. And unfortunately, because I had the courage to say it publicly, I'm the one being reprimanded. Well, let's see what happens when we get before the judge in the judicial review. I'm confident it will be overturned.
Wyatt says City Council enforced an old code of ethics that was replaced by a new one put in place after he made his comments. Riley back in now, and those temperatures you've been talking about that are coming in the next few days looking really, really nice.
Yes.
Although still going to contend with those high winds. That's always a risk.
Yeah, very, very high winds. They will start to die off once we get into the day on Friday, once a cold front pushes through. But until then, yes, do expect some very windy conditions really across much of southern and central Manitoba. I want to start with satellite radar. As expected, as this cold front has started to make its way into Manitoba, you can see a few showers, some heavier pockets starting to pop up into western Manitoba. All this back to the north here, some cloud cover, a little bit of rain, and as we get into the night tonight, I'll show you the potential even for a few more flurries for some of us. And out of some of this right now, as expected, some isolated thunderstorms popping up. None of this of the severe variety, but certainly just be aware that there is some thunder and lightning happening out there. There is the risk that some of that makes its way into the Red River Valley through the overnight hours. So you see the center of this low starting to make its way eastward. As this gets toward the Hudson Bay coast, we're going to see temperatures cooling behind this with this cold front. That combined with the counterclockwise flow off of Hudson Bay from this area of low pressure actually going to make some of this fall for some parts of northern Manitoba as snow into the early morning hours. Anywhere sort of north of Thompson along the Hudson Bay coast, the best potential to pick up a little bit of wet snow as we head into the early morning hours on Friday. Once that front passes, a bit of a more seasonal day tomorrow, we'll get the sun back by the time we get into the day on Friday. So back to a sunny sky tomorrow. And then as we get into the weekend, we start to see a little bit more cloud cover pushing in, and out of some of this, this forecast model predicting the potential for a little bit more instability as we get Saturday into Sunday. It did put a slight chance of showers in the forecast for Winnipeg as we get later in the afternoon hours Saturday into Sunday. I wouldn't read too much into that, but just know the potential's there on Saturday for maybe a few rain showers. Same with Sunday. Anytime you see some of this cloud cover, the potential is there for maybe a few showers. I'm not talking about any major accumulation, unfortunately, but you could get a little bit wet. The winds do start to back off, as I mentioned, as we get into Friday. So even in the morning hours, northeasterly winds in Winnipeg, 20, gusting to 30, maybe the odd gust up to 40, but you can see back to the west here as we get into the morning. This starts to die off as we get into the afternoon hours, back to maybe 10 gusting 20 by the time we get to that whiteout party in Winnipeg starting later in the afternoon. Rainfall to come really traced to really nothing across the south, but the potential for up to 5 to 10 millimeters in parts of northern Manitoba, waking up to 13 degrees in Winnipeg in the morning tomorrow. 19 tomorrow afternoon, 24 for Saturday, Brittany all the way up to 33 degrees and windy by the time we get to next Tuesday.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
With measles cases surging across several provinces, public health authorities are urging hesitant Canadians to get vaccinated. And now one UK mom is speaking out about her family's nightmare after her infant daughter was infected and died. Jennifer Yoon has the story.
A happy, healthy child suddenly gone at the age of 10, killed by a measles infection.
The fact that it was measles, I just couldn't get my head around it.
Little Renee was infected as a baby, too young to get the jab, but unable to avoid being exposed during an outbreak in Manchester, UK. She seemed to recover, but the virus stayed dormant in her brain for years. When it woke up, it caused seizures before robbing Renee of the ability to talk, eat, then stay conscious.
They told me that it was going to be fatal. And she'd have no brain activity.
The disease is called subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, or SSPE. It happens to 1 to 2 people out of 10,000 overall measles cases, though the risk level rises to 1 in over 600 if an infant gets measles before they're 15 months old.
There's really not much that you can do.
This doctor has treated it in a developing country.
We wouldn't normally think about it in our setting, a developed world setting where measles had been eradicated.
But now she worries someone might die of measles complications like SSPE in Canada, as the worst outbreak in almost 3 decades rips through unvaccinated children in Ontario. The province has been trying to encourage people to get immunized, yet cases this year continue to multiply faster, mainly in rural farming communities with religious objections to vaccination.
These beliefs are deeply embedded. When you have pockets of unvaccinated people, it will spread in those communities.
Rebecca's sadness is tinged with rage. She says her child would be alive if others were immunized against measles. Now she wants others to understand the stakes.
That injection could save your child's life, like it could have with my child.
Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Cross-examination is continuing at the trial of 5 former World Junior Hockey Team players in London, Ontario. The complainant, known as EM due to a publication ban, faced more questions from the lawyer for one of the accused. Ali Shiasen reports.
Carter Hart's defense attorney, Megan Savard, says to EM, "I want to talk to you about crying." She's referring to EM's testimony this week that while trying to leave the hotel room, she allegedly heard one of the hockey players say, "Don't let her leave, she's crying." Savard compared that to EM's police statements from 2018, where she claimed the men said, "Come on, don't leave," suggesting, quote, "The reason you invented this story of the men saying, 'Don't let her leave, she's crying,' you wanted it to be more likely that the jury will see this as worse than it was." EM denied this, saying there were several parts in the police statement where she says she was crying in the hotel room and, quote, "I have no reason to come up with a worse version." The exchange between Savard and EM was terse at times. We spoke with Christopher Sharon, the Associate Dean of the Faculty of Law at Western University, about how defense teams have to consider how they come across to the jury.
I've seen it happen where a witness is cross-examined to such an extent that it can actually sort of rebound against the cross-examiner or the cross-examiners. People start to feel sorry for the witness, and people start to become a little more forgiving than they otherwise would be of inconsistencies, of errors, of, perhaps not being perfectly responsive to the question, simply because they understand a person is enduring a very difficult experience.
Daniel Brown, the defense counsel for Alex Formanton, began his cross-examination this afternoon, and that will likely carry on to tomorrow. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Hostilities between India and Pakistan continue to intensify in the Kashmir region, with each accusing the other of aggression. Drones and artillery are said to be used by both sides, with no signs of tensions easing. Journalist Rebecca Bunton has the details from Mumbai.
Information has been coming through thick and fast this evening, and much of it is unverified. However, from what we're gathering from local Indian media, eyewitness accounts, reports coming through on news wires, there have been explosions that took place in the city of Jammu, in India's Jammu and Kashmir, and that was followed by sirens and a blackout. Now, Indian media are reporting that it's understood that there have been Pakistani drones or missiles that have been targeting that area, and that they've been intercepted by Indian defense systems. Now, this would represent a significant escalation in this already very tense situation between India and Pakistan following that attack that took place last month in Indian Kashmir, which largely targeted Indian tourists. India blaming Pakistan, something Islamabad has denied any involvement in that. But the situation escalated already this week with the strikes that were carried out by India on Pakistan, which India says killed 100 terrorists, while Pakistan says it killed civilians. Now, earlier today as well, Pakistan had said that it had shot down 25 Indian drones in its airspace. India had said that it had targeted Pakistani air defense systems after Pakistan had tried to hit military sites in north and western India. Now, this shows that tensions are still very much, it seems, escalating, despite India saying that it doesn't want this situation to escalate, but it has warned that if there are military attacks, it would respond firmly. Rebecca Bunden for CBC News, Mumbai.
Now, here at home, some Winnipeg residents from India and Pakistan say they're worried about their relatives back home. They're hoping for a peaceful outcome. CBC's Mike Arsenault has more.
Sukhmeet Singh's lived in Winnipeg for the past 3 years. Prior to moving to Canada, Punjab, India was his home. He still has lots of family there. The rising conflict between India and Pakistan has him worried.
It was really sad to know about the attacks. Now they are doing blackout in Gurdaspur, Pathankot, Amritsar from 9 to 5 p.m. So they are also worried.
Tensions are high between India and Pakistan after a massacre in Indian-controlled Kashmir killed 26 people last month. Kashmir is divided between the two countries but claimed in its entirety by each, which has been a point of tension for decades. India blames Pakistan for the Kashmir attack and responded by firing missiles last week, which Pakistan called an act of war.
Though we are being separated by flags, but still the tears are same. We are being separated by the borders, but blood is same. So I think they should work on it.
Jamil Mohammed is the owner of A1 Restaurant in St. Vital. He's from the western part of Pakistan, but Canada's been his home for the past 25 years. He says when the missiles were fired at Pakistan, he got a call from his cousin.
I have family over there in Bahawalpur and also in Rawalpindi. So it was shock to me. So I was shaking, but what's going to happen next?
Mohammed is hoping for a peaceful outcome. He'd like to see the two countries get along the way he does with his staff.
My employees in here, more than 50% from India, we are very happy with each other and never had any dispute, anything.
Mohammed and Singh would like to see other countries and the UN step in to mediate the conflict.
Sometimes just a roundtable conference or dialogue can solve the problem, because there is no one is the winners of war.
Pakistan says it shot down 25 drones from India in its airspace Thursday. The Indian Defense Ministry says Pakistan attempted to engage military targets in India Wednesday night. The UN is urging both countries to act with restraint. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The U.S. and the U.K. say they've reached an agreement on trade in several sectors, but its scope is limited and details remain to be worked out. But both sides are hailing it as a breakthrough. The CBC's Aaron Collins reports.
This deal between two of the world's largest economies, touted as a win-win by the U.S. and the U.K., but far less expansive than the tariffs that triggered it. The agreement will see U.S. tariffs on U.K. steel and aluminum scrapped. Tariffs on U.K. cars like Bentleys and Jaguars will be chopped significantly, slashed to 10% for the first 100,000 vehicles, down from more than 27%. For its part, the U.S. gets more access to the U.K. market for its beef, ethanol, and other farm products. Key for the U.K., that access won't mean lowering that country's food standards. The 10% across-the-board tariffs applied to all imports to the U.S. remain. But this agreement is far from comprehensive, more of a framework than a fulsome trade deal. Suggestions the deal was a work in progress, one the president bristled at.
This is a very conclusive deal, but we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal, not like you said it. You said it really incorrectly. This is a maxed out deal that we're going to make bigger, and we make it bigger through growth.
This is the first trade deal inked since the U.S. implemented wide-ranging global tariffs last month, perhaps a roadmap for future agreements. The UK Prime Minister forging a warm relationship with the US President in the face of tariffs, touting today's deal as saving British automotive and manufacturing jobs.
We don't storm off, we stay in the room and we negotiate and we work for our country with the national interest at the foremost of our mind. Because the other way of working doesn't deliver the benefits that working people need. So I also want to be clear, this is just the start. With the deal we've done today, we can say jobs saved, jobs won, not job done.
Today's agreement perhaps a sign that more trade deals could be coming. U.S. officials set to meet with Chinese delegates in the coming days. And the UK's cordial approach to a volatile president, a potential way forward for future negotiations. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Washington.
Raising money to help inner-city youth further their education. That's the goal of a fundraiser this morning by the Westland Foundation. This past year, it awarded 39 scholarships worth $67,000 to high school students to be able to go to college or university. Francesca Carino was a recipient and is now at the University of Manitoba.
It's very rewarding. I've put a lot of time and dedication to my education throughout all my high school years, so it was really nice getting this recognition and award to show that, wow, my hard work paid off.
Since its creation in 1993, the foundation has given out more than 1,200 scholarships. Well, it was a tough loss for the Winnipeg Jets last night, all after a thrilling Game 7 double overtime win to end out the first series. The team lost its opening game to the Dallas Stars. But fans have been coming out by the thousands to show their support, and it's been unwavering. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
It wasn't how they wanted to start the second round. The Winnipeg Jets losing 3-2 in the series opener against the Dallas Stars. Regardless of the outcome on the ice, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman says he likes what he's been seeing when it comes to the outpouring of support for the team during its playoff run, both in and outside the rink.
Sports brings people together. You know, not everybody at one of these outdoor viewing sessions, they don't know each other, but they're all part of the community and everybody has something in common that brings them together, namely the Jets.
Bettman even joked maybe if he was a bit younger, he'd be out there with all those people.
What goes through my mind is it's all good, right? It's the reason we have a team here. It's the reason Winnipeg is an important part of the league.
But Stars forward Mikko Rantanen made sure all those fans left Wednesday without anything to celebrate, handing Winnipeg its first loss at home of the playoffs, netting a hat trick for the second straight game, and the first player to get back-to-back hat tricks in the Stanley Cup playoffs since 1985. Just the third time that's ever happened in league history.
He's feeling it, coming off of Game 7, and we got to know when he's on the ice. He's a guy that you have to make sure that you especially tie up that stick of his.
Winnipeg didn't get the win Wednesday night, but they got star center Mark Scheifele back. He hadn't played since Game 5 of Round 1.
Scheif had the puck a lot tonight, scored a big goal, had a few other great looks. But yeah, when those guys aren't there, it certainly knocks a little bit of a hole into your lineup.
Obviously, just uber proud of the boys for that Game 7 comeback and win. To make sure that my season wasn't ended.
The Jets will look to rebound when the two teams return to Canada Life Centre Friday night. Puck drop for Game 2 is set for 8:30. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And Riley, when, not if, when there is a Game 5,
yes.
Assiniboine Park Conservancy is going to be hosting a watch party at the park.
I like your thinking on that.
Yes, right? It is far from over, guys. So that's scheduled for Tuesday at the Lyric Theatre, and they're looking for a $10 donation. So
and
we're just waiting on the time.
They are also planning for a possible Game 7 for an outdoor viewing party there as well. So
Game 1, done and dusted. We got a long way to go.
We do. I'll get you caught up on that whiteout party forecast coming up toward the end of the show. But another great morning for a dog walk tomorrow morning. Not a crisp one. We're looking at a pretty, I think, decent morning tomorrow morning. For pups like Callie, who are certainly Jets fans, as you can see there. Thank you, Millie, for sending this picture in. Very cute. You can send yours to talkback at cbc.ca. This is kind of how I look when I'm trying to watch the hockey game. 13 degrees first thing in the morning. Northwest winds gusting to 30. Yes, a windy one today. Still windy into the morning hours. Once we get into the day, though, I think we'll start to see that wind dropping off. By the time we get into the evening hours, that's when we really start to see the wind backing off even more. So pretty seasonal in terms of temperature, at least tomorrow. 30s still at this hour, back to the west. Brandon, Dauphin, Melita, 29 at the moment, 29 in the Pas. Winnipeg, we did hit my forecast high of 27 in the 5 o'clock hour this afternoon. Churchill at 5 degrees. Overnight temperatures look like this. Above seasonal for overnight temperatures, we should be around 4 or 5 degrees for this time of the year. A few showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder into the west through the evening hours. That risk of thunderstorms pushes eastward as we get through the overnight hours tonight. 13 in Winnipeg, 10 in Gimli, 10s and 11s through much of northwestern Ontario. And you can kind of see that rain-snow line as we get overnight in northern Manitoba. -7 in Churchill. What we're going to see as we get through the night is that counterclockwise rotation around that area of low pressure, bringing some cooler air on shore, and therefore that risk of some snow or some mixing through the night for places like Gillam even. Thompson maybe even sees a few snowflakes through the overnight hours. 17s, 18s tomorrow afternoon through the west. That system pushes off as we get through the lunch hour tomorrow, and then our temperatures really do rebound as we get through the daytime hours tomorrow. So +6 in Gillam by the afternoon, +12 in Thompson, Norway House at 15 degrees. In the south, temperatures fairly seasonal. These temperatures actually a little above seasonal for the western side of the province. 21s through Westman, Melita. 19 in Dauphin and Winnipeg, 19 in Steinbach as well. And once we clear that sunshine, that cloud cover out, we're looking at a mainly sunny day even for northwestern Ontario. And temperatures again through northwestern Ontario, fairly seasonal for this time of the year. 19 for Kenora and up to 21 in Fort Frances. I will have your 7-day forecast coming up in a bit.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, it's time to release your inner or outer wizard or barbarian. A Dungeons and Dragons a cappella musical has been created by a group of local singers. Incantatum's Bardic Inspiration Show brings the tabletop game to life. CBC Manitoba's Shanalee Vidal has more.
Brothers of the mind, rejoice, swing, swing, swing. Raise your voice, sing, sing, sing. Down and down into the deep, who knows what we'll find beneath? Diamonds, rubies, gold, and more.
My name is Michael Penner. I am a bass in the choir. I wrote the script for this show, and I have also been arranging a lot of the music that we do. This isn't your normal choir performance. The choir is here to add to the experience of like a fully scripted, acted out show. So we're calling this an a cappella musical. It's not your typical musical where the actors are doing the singing. You've got the actors doing their thing, and then the choir is providing the music.
I need a hero. Dun, dun. I'm holding up for a hero till the end of the night. He's gotta be strong, and he's gotta be fast, and he's gotta be fresh from the fight.
And then the music's going to weave in and tell that story.
Yes.
So what is it going to look like? Are there going to be any props or costumes?
Oh, lots of costumes. We've got dragon heads. We've got an orc bard with his ukulele. We've got a halfling rogue with her bow and arrow. We've got a couple dwarves. We've got a dragonborn. There is a section of our choir that is very much into live action role play, and so we had access to all of their costumes, and that was really helpful.
Which one is Ashley?
Oh, Taylor just went out to get her. She just arrived.
You nervous?
A little.
My name is Dylan Hatcher. I play the role of Alex, who is the dungeon master in Incantatum's Bardic Inspiration. His character, it's all an effort to impress one character in particular that he likes, has a crush on. And so they go on an adventure to rescue this princess. They go through all sorts of mines and they meet all kinds of creatures, and they kind of also figure out how to play the game.
How is the show going to work? We're going to have the actors on stage, and they're going to be kind of led through this adventure, and the choir, they're going to be performing as well. What's going to be happening?
The show is going to be like a series of scenes with some breaks for songs in between that are very thematic with what's kind of going on in the show. And so there's going to be songs from all sorts of like nerdy stuff. There's songs from Game of Thrones, songs from How to Train Your Dragon, songs from the Dungeons and Dragons movie, of course. So if you love that kind of, sort of musical experience, you're going to get that here.
Dylan Hatcher is also a dungeon master in the real world and is currently running 3 separate D&D campaigns.
Sometimes, we feel like we don't have enough power to make a difference in the world. So when we play Dungeons and Dragons, the players, they do get to have that power. They do get to kind of have some semblance in what the world is like. They get to shape the world, and I think that's really empowering.
It's community cooperative storytelling. Lots of people in the nerdy side of things really like playing games, but the competitive aspect kind of keeps people like at odds with each other. We've all heard about losing friends over Monopoly. But in Dungeons and Dragons, you're not against each other, you're against the story.
Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Game 2 tomorrow evening, Friday at 8:30 p.m. Gates opening at 6:30 in the evening. 17 degrees still, a mainly sunny sky as we get through the evening tomorrow. Although, you know what? You might want to pack a sweater for this one, a white sweater. 10 degrees, a clear sky by the time the game is ending. 11:30. So it might be a bit chilly on the way home for that tomorrow evening. Looking at 24 degrees for Saturday, and then we really jump up from there. 30 for Sunday, risk of a thunderstorm maybe into Monday at 31 degrees. 33 for Tuesday, and we'll stay above seasonal into Wednesday. And then I do have our next best chance for actually some measurable rain coming as we get into the day on Thursday, which we hope that sticks, even though it's not sunshine. But we need it.
We need it.
It may be May, but there is a lot of hockey to be excited about, from the PWHL playoffs, of course, to the Jets and the NHL.
In Ottawa, our great game is helping girls find confidence in a new country. Hallie Cottenham brings us the story.
These girls might not be PWHL caliber, at least not yet.
When you come to that ice, you feel so confident, like so powerful. Like I feel like when I'm in the ice, I'm like free.
Most of the teens in this program are new to Canada and hockey.
Hockey is like the national sport of Canada, right? And it was like my first year here. I was like, oh, okay, let's just try the culture here. And it's been interesting. I learned a lot of new things, including skating.
They're getting a chance to play thanks to Hockey for Youth. It's a free after-school hockey program for kids in BC, Ontario, and Quebec.
Everything was very new to me. New culture, new country, new language, everything. So hockey made me feel like I'm a part of like Canadian culture, which I really love. That's why I stick with it like all those years. And like it made me feel like I belong somewhere, you know what I mean?
And she's proud to chart a path for others.
Hockey's so out of reach for most people. We know that 71% of new citizens express an interest in playing hockey, but only 1% will have a chance to do so.
The motto for this program, no barriers, but these boards.
Hallie Cottenham, CBC News, Ottawa.
And they skate a heck of a lot better than I do.
I love that they're helping build a community with some of these newcomers.
Exactly.
And it's community that we sure love here right now.
Yes.
And they can join the Jets community here
Exactly.
as we head towards that
And
cup.
bet you they could skate circles around them.
Right? Maybe. Jets game tomorrow night. We'll be back here. See you then.
See ya.